All right, well, let's get started here. Welcome to the April 28th Gerber Scout Camp Reservation staff webinar training. I'm going to turn it over to Riddles to kind of run through what we're going to be talking about today.
All right, guys. Good to see you all here. I'm happy to see everyone's bright, smiling faces. So what we're going to talk about today is basically how we expect you guys to be and how we expect everything to go together when we hit summer camp. That's our customer service. How are we going to reach that 100% legendary camp experience? And to help discuss that, we have a good friend of scouting. He's a myth, he's a legend, and my email closed up on me. His name is Mr. Mark Griffin. He's been in scouting over 40 years. He's an Eagle Scout. He has quite a few roles under his belt working for the scouting movement. He's been the associate director of the Cub Scouting program, that's nationwide, director of Philmont Training Center, director of volunteer training, the works. This man knows it inside and out. And hand it off to him to go ahead and get us started.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. It's gonna take me twice to share this, I know. Okay, it's gonna take me twice to share this. I'll share that screen. Let's try it. See if I do this right, Ryan.
Yeah.
That work?
Yeah,
Is
we
that,
can
right?
see it.
Is that the right
Yep,
one?
I see it.
Okay. So you got the right one. Just one slide, right? Okay. So I taught this presentation at an outdoor seminar a couple years ago, and Ryan saw it and asked me to do it. And I've been using it with our council camps here. I'm the scout executive currently, Great Salt Lake Council in Utah, and it's applied. It's applied for me in some of those roles that we talked about, and some roles I'll talk about here too. But just basically, first of all, think about while I'm doing this. How would you describe quality customer service? What does that mean to you? I grew up in Southern California and Florida, and for me, because of growing up in those places, the embodiment of what I imagined good customer service to be was Disney, and what I saw at Disneyland and Disney World and those places. In the early 80s, I was a camp director in the Gulf Ridge Council, headquartered in Tampa. And due to our location there in Central Florida, I was able to work with a lot of Walt Disney Company employees directly and with the company itself. And I learned a lot of things that they did in their operation that I thought I could adapt to what we were doing at Flaming Arrow Scout Reservation. When I became the director of the Philmont Training Center in 1995, I decided to intentionally incorporate these ideas. I had gotten some information from the Disney Institute from a friend of mine that attended, and started to apply some of those Disney guest services to make it a full part of the Philmont Training Center operation. And we also incorporated those practices here in the Great Salt Lake Council, and I think it's made a difference. At Philmont, one of the differences it made was I think it made a big difference in attendance. During the time that we used these practices, our attendance grew almost every year. We had a little decline in Jamboree year. It's to the right side where the green arrow is. And we had the largest attendance years ever to this very day at PTC while we're using these practices. Now, obviously, your camp's not Walt Disney World. You may not have the funds to operate, but a lot of people are going to think about it in those same terms. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I believe, and Disney believes, that you can use a lot of these things that Disney teaches and some of the things that I've learned in your camp, and I've seen it happen. Exceeding expectations is Disney's customer service strategy, and it became ours at Flaming Arrow and at Philmont. Exceptional service which exceeds expectation for the customer is not just an idea. It's about systems, it's about processes, and about standards. Exceptional service happens when you excel in the careful design of how you provide service, the intentional, flawless delivery of service, and having a recovery safety net when the service does not go as planned. Like a family that goes to Disney property, expectations are very high when they come to a scout camp, when a troop comes to camp. For example, this scout probably never really existed. I've been in scouting over 50 years and I've never seen one of these guys. But that's what they expect us to be. A lot of people expect us to look like that when they come in the door. They expect us to act like that. So our goal has to be to exceed that expectation. So how do we do that? I've observed two overriding concepts in my dealings and the training that I've received from Disney. Number one is strategic focus, and number two is culture. And these are two things I'm going to talk about most here today. Strategic focus is what Disney calls being intentional when others are not. Hopefully most of you have been to a Disney property or you've experienced something Disney, a Disney store or movie or whatever. But what Disney means by strategic focus is paying attention to the smallest details to make sure the experience is the best it can be, from before it starts to after it ends. Be aware this is not micromanagement. So for all you staff leaders, this is not micromanagement. It's being intentional and looking at everything. As you might observe, Disney intends to think differently about things. They pay extraordinary detail to they pay extraordinary attention to the details surrounding general business processes. They strategically place emphasis, which is both greater and different from what's typical in other corporations. So if exceeding expectations is the strategy, paying attention to detail or strategic focus is the tactic, and it works. Let me give you an example. Disney pays attention to lots of little things. And if you have any experience with me, you've experienced it. But for me, a couple of years ago, my wife and I went to Disney World, just the two of us, and had a great time and enjoyed Disney. About 6 months later, we got a brochure from Disney, encouraged us to come back, gave us a 30% discount. And I thought, okay, that's normal. That's what most of us do. We try to attract attention. We try to attract people back to our businesses. As I started looking at the brochure, I noticed that there weren't any children in the brochure. It was all couples in their mid-50s, like my wife and I. And the only child that was in any of the pictures was in the back, and it was in the seat behind this older couple, and it kind of looked like a grandchild. Disney had focused on me. They knew that I was there, just the two of us, that we were in our mid-50s, got a brochure inviting me to come back. And it wasn't talking about all the things kids can do. It wasn't talking about all the things that families can do. It was the things that my wife and I could do. And they focused on me and paid attention to my needs. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's think about this in a camp setting. How can we use strategic focus in our camp? Number one, what's the pre-camp experience? What like Disney inviting me back, or Disney sending me an email every day, almost every day, for the last 2 weeks before I arrived at Disney property, they excited me about coming. They told me the things I was going to do. They shared with me experiences I was going to have. So in a camp setting, we might send them something that excites them about what they're going to see at camp. What are your pre-camp meetings? What are your pre-camp activities, visits to round tables, whatever. Number two, what's your arrival like? When I was the camp director at a camp in Florida, my first camp, we had this beautiful gateway that you drove in, and you drove down this beautiful driveway with the scout oath or a scout law on each side, and then you hit the ranger's house. And it was a dump, and all the stuff was piled in the yard. So you passed this dump, and then you went around the corner and you crossed the dam and saw the beautiful lake and the waterfront, the dining hall. That arrival experience was not what we expected to be. The other part is about being show ready. What is the arrival experience when you come to camp? After you pass this welcoming experience, how does the staff welcome the participants? What does the camp look like? Is it show ready? Is it ready for people to be there? Or are you setting up and getting ready for things? What do your materials look like? Are they classy? And you don't have to spend a lot of money on that. Just well written. You look at it and is the grammar correct? Is the spelling correct? Because that can detract from your experience. Your events at camp, are they the best that they can be, the best you can possibly have them? As I said, you don't have to have a lot of money, just making it the best that it can be within your resources. And then what's the post-camp experience like? What are we looking at after camp? Are we talking to them and asking them how their experience was, encouraging them to come back in the future, like the brochure I got from Disney? The second piece is culture. Culture is a big buzzword these days, but Disney's been using it to a culture that fits the leader's vision. The camp director and program, what is your vision for camp, and what does that vision, is it part of the culture of your camp? One of the things Disney does to make sure that culture is important, and one of the things I did was make sure that all of our communication and all of our training, staff training, anything that I did as a leader focused on that culture, so that when I did things, those would be experienced by our staff and they see it. A small example was I used to, when I was the director of PTC, one of the things that I learned from Disney was that everybody participates and everybody helps out. And I would always find a way to make sure the staff saw that I was picking up trash or helping fold tables or things. My expectation as a staff leader was that the staff was going to do those kind of things. And if they saw me picking up trash, they knew that it was important. At Disney, the way I learned that from Disney was the managers all carry around trash, these little pickup things that I have to bend over and pick up trash, and everyone's expected to do that, and that's part of it. The other part was bringing on people that match our culture. You're pretty far into the staff process right now, but one of the things that you could do in the future, one of the things you can do as you go along and get more people, is getting the right people and instilling in them your company culture. Disney says hire for attitude, not just for aptitude. Now, when in my hiring here in the Great Salt Lake Council, I hire people that fit our culture, and then I train them how to do the job. There's certain jobs, obviously accounting or attorney, that I need to get people that have that skill set. But I want people that are going to fit my team, going to be part of my team, and then I train them to do their job within that team structure. So just as camps integrate a wide range of employees carrying out a whole bunch of jobs, Disney uses that unique corporate culture to unite all the workers in a common goal. And at Disney, and it should be at our camps, is to help our guests and make sure they have the best experience they can. And that should be the culture. So exceeding expectations, strategic focus, and culture is how you create magic in guest service. But by themselves, just knowing that's not good enough to carry out the role of quality service. So Disney has some tools to help us. One of the things, they use this thing called the Quality Service Compass. One of the things that is an opportunity in our camps and at Disney is sometimes you have go-getters that have their own versions of what quality service is. And sometimes that may match your expectations or what you want. You might have that guy in the trading post that is giving away too much stuff to satisfy his customers. What's the level of doing that? So one of the things that we used was this Quality Service Compass is to align all the people, our infrastructure, and our processes into a common effort. So we have something that we're looking at and that we're all on the same page as we figure out how we're going to serve our guests. The first one is guestology, and that's defined as the art and science of knowing and understanding your customer. Basically, ask. One of the things Walt Disney says, you don't build it for yourself, you know what people want, you build it for them. Guestology comes first in the quality compass because the needs, the wants, the perceptions, and emotions of the customer, our scouts, are the basis of everything else we do. Knowing what the customer wants and knowing what they expect when they get to camp gives us a common direction and a common purpose. And the author Jim Collins writes about this in most of his books, about knowing the customer what they want. So you need to ask them what they want, not just assume it. And you can do that no matter what your role is at camp. If you're a camp commissioner talking to your troops about what they expect during the week, if you're in the trading post or in the waterfront, wherever you are, asking your staff, asking the customers what kind of things they're looking for so they know it. Don't just assume, because that's when you get in trouble. The next step is quality standards. You have to establish quality service criteria and a measurement of quality service. Disney does this with quality standards. They have 4 steps to prioritize every action that you have as a cast member or as a camp staff member. Number 1, safety. Before I go into these, I want to say I found these to fit perfectly in camp. We use these at Philmont, and every decision that we made was based on these 4 criteria. And I think it helped us make some decisions and helped me have a staff that knew how to answer questions. But number one, of course, is safety. All safety is taught. That's the key thing. The most important thing we have is that our scouts are safe. Number two is courtesy. Every customer, every camper is treated as a very important person and as an individual. Knowing the answers to obvious questions. Knowing the answers may be obvious, but knowing the answers to obvious questions is important. And sometimes you're going to get questions that seem silly to you, but or obvious, but aren't necessary to them. For example, one of the famous things, the questions at Disney, is what time is the 3 o'clock parade? And everybody says, well, it's at 3 o'clock. And if you give a customer that's asking what time is the 3 o'clock parade that kind of answer, they're not going to be happy. They already know the parade's at 3 o'clock. They don't know, you don't know what they're asking. So you try to help get them a solution. So the answer to what time's the 3 o'clock parade, if you're at Disney, is, well, that depends on where you are. If you're in Main Street, the parade that starts at 3 o'clock at Tomorrowland gets here about 3:15. And if you find your spot right over here at this corner, you're going to have the best view of the parade. So don't assume that the answer is obvious, and don't give them an answer that might be flippant or obvious. So because it may not be so obvious to them. You know, they already know that the 3 o'clock parade starts somewhere else in the park and is going to be where they're going to be. The third step, so again, safety first, then courtesy to the guest. Third is the show, putting on a show, making sure that you're show ready, making sure your place where you're working is show ready for the customer before they get there. If you've ever gone to something and you get there, and even if you're a little bit early and they're setting up and they're obviously not ready for you, the staff is not the waterfront, the trading post is not open, whatever those things are that occur in camp, you know how that detracts from your experience. So the key at Disney is to be show ready. When I took a course at Disney, it started at 8 a.m. in the morning, and of course, being me and most of us that were scout people got there about 20 minutes early. When the doors were closed, and then when the doors opened and it was time to greet us, which was about 10 minutes before the thing started, the room was completely ready. They weren't in there setting up. We didn't see them in there setting up. We didn't see them disorganized. They were ready to talk to us, greet us, welcome us, and serve us in our situation. And then the last one is efficiency. Maybe the last thing in the process is that the process is efficient. Sometimes we put efficiency first, and that causes unsafe activity, that causes a loss of courtesy, that causes distraction from the show. So efficiency is the fourth, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. So it's important to remember that this is always the order. I have a son who's a cast member, and he works in Adventureland. He's actually working right now in the new Star Wars land, getting that ready in Disney World. He's pretty excited about that. But he always makes sure that these 4 keys are important in everything he does. If you ask a cast member about this, they say they make all decisions based on this 4-step process. Is it safe? The most important one. Am I being courteous, which is more important than the show and the efficiency? You can delay the show if you're being courteous. Helping someone onto a ride. He used to work in the Haunted Mansion. Helping somebody that needs help onto a ride that slows down the show and slows down the efficiency, but is courteous to the guests is important. How does what you're doing impact the show? It's more important than efficiency. I'll give you an example in a second. And is it efficient? That's important, but the least important of the keys. One of the stories about Walt Disney was that he went to visit the Jungle Cruise after Disneyland opened. And he got on the ride, and the ride was supposed to be 14 minutes, and it was 7 minutes when he got off. And back in those days, we didn't have the internet, so everybody didn't know who Walt Disney was. He got off the ride, he went over to the area manager and said, why was it only 7 minutes? He said, well, we realized we'd get twice as many people on there. You know, they missed part of the show, but we get twice as many people on. And this is when Walt came up with the keys. He said, the show is more important than the efficiency. We want people to have a great show. We want to have a great program. And I think they fit pretty well into a camp situation. Think about how you might handle this. Let's say, for example, you're teaching a scout how to swim. and it's safe. You're in the waterfront. He's done his swim check. You're courteous. You're helping him. You have a great show because your waterfront is an excellent. It's all set up right and everything's in the right place. But let's say you're 2 minutes, 5 minutes away from actually teaching this young man to swim. And I'll let your camp director and program director overrule me on this, but I'm just giving you an example. You think in 2 to 5 minutes he's going to learn how to swim, but your class time is over, your session time is over. Can you do the things to increase the show, mess up the efficiency a little bit, but increase the show by having that young man learn how to swim or whatever it is, whatever skill it is you're teaching. So that can be something you can do at camp. We created this card for all of our camp staff and our staff, and this is our camp basic keys that we use in our camps. How I lead with a positive attitude. I know and manage my operation. I recognize and hold others accountable for delivering. Safety, I practice safe behaviors. Courtesy, I project a positive image. Show, I stay in character and play the part. Efficiency, I perform my role efficiently so campers get the most out of their experience. I use my time and resources wisely. So this is a card that I gave to all our staff so that they can try to remember our basic operating principles and our 4 keys. Our common goal is to provide a scouting experience that exceeds expectations for fun, adventure, and personal growth. And then our values-based behaviors, which are really easy for us because they're based on the Scout Plan. But the next part of the compass is delivery systems. And these are your people, the setting that you have at camp, and your processes. Walt, another thing Walt says, you can dream, create, design, and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality, and that's you. You can have the best camp in the world, but if your camp staff doesn't make it good. I was lucky. I had Philmont. I had one of the best physical facilities in the country. But if my staff was not up to those standards of the facility, it was not what it should be. It could be beautiful, but if my staff was terrible. So the combination of a beautiful camp and a good staff made those successful. So here's some of the things that you can overcome some of those other issues where you may not have the most beautiful camp, and I'm sure you do, but other things to it. Smiles, smiling at people, making eye contact with your staff, with your customers, saying hi. One of the things at Philmont we did was we had a goal that every participant, every family member that came to PTC heard "Welcome to Philmont" 17 times before the opening program that night. Our staff's goal was constantly "Welcome to Philmont, welcome to Philmont, we're glad you're here." We sought out direct contact, making sure we saw someone that looked uncomfortable, looked lost, make sure you find them. Perform immediate service recoveries. If something is a problem in their getting in and getting ready, we've found ways to have an immediate recovery. We said thank you all the time, or in Chick-fil-A world, what do they say? They don't say you're welcome. They say, what do they say? I can't remember. Anyway, but we said thank you to everything they can. We wanted to create magical experiences. Disney's all about magical experiences. Some of the things that fit in our environment, or Mickey, there's only one Mickey Mouse. And if you talk to a Disney cast member, there's only one Mickey Mouse. And why is that? Obviously, that's difficult to have. And I don't think we have anybody of the age that I would worry about. But if I said to someone, well, really, there's more than one Mickey Mouse. What if a 2-year-old standing behind me and hears that and destroys the illusion? And then we have those kind of experiences at camp. So there's only one Mickey Mouse, and a cast member does that. Now we have the same kind of magical experiences. Or the Arrow is a magical experience. We don't. It's not secret, but we don't tell about all the things that occur because we want the scout to have a magical experience. Wood Badge, same thing. We don't tell everything that occurs during the Wood Badge course. But we want to have that magical experience and be positive in personal work issues. We talked about at Philmont and in our camps here, on stage and off stage. At Philmont, when the staff was on stage, meaning they were in front of our customers, they were performing. They were acting like that scout, the best that they could, the best that they were that scout in that earlier picture. When they were backstage at their camp, at their staff area, they could let their hair down or do the things within limits that staff does. But whenever they were out in front of the customer, they were on stage and had to act like it. Another step in making a positive experience is proper training. And you guys do really good training with these. This is fun. But overall training of what is the council's mission, what is the camp's mission, what is my job on the waterfront. And so you know about all those things. So a staff member knows what the overall mission of the council is and the vision, what the overall mission of the camp is, and what my job is. The setting part of delivery system is some of the things I talked about: your arrival at camp, your arrival at your site, your arrival at wherever it is you're working. The first impressions are probably the most memorable. Picking up trash, making sure that your area is clean and neat, because people notice that stuff. And if you don't see those little things, you may lose it. Your service language. What is your service language in scouting and in your camp? And what is your service costume? At Philmont, on the first day of an arrival day, we all wore our staff uniform, our BSA uniforms, because it was a Boy Scout camp. During the week, we wore our staff uniforms. But on that arrival day, that first impression is important. And again, on stage, backstage. One of the things we always did when the setting was we always made sure the flags were up. So that when people came in, they could see the American flags and the camp flags and all those things. The other one is the process and how you do it. What's your check-in process? Is it efficient? Is it make the customer happy? Is scheduling work for you? What happens at meals? Empowerment. One of the things that I really learned from Disney was empowering my staff, so that somebody didn't have to find me to get a question answered. That I trained the people that worked for me to know the answers, and so that if a participant at PTC came to them, they could usually answer the question and didn't have to find me. They knew because I told them what the parameters of their decision making was and what I was okay with. But I also didn't punish them if they made a mistake. I said, okay, that's good because I empowered you, but what we're going to do next time, let's do it this way, as long as it didn't hurt somebody. But if we use the 4 keys, we didn't have to worry about that. We also looked at what are the combustion points. What are the points, what are the places that might be a problem? And identify those in advance. So think about where you're working and what are the potential issues that might pop up as you're working there this summer, and say, okay, how can I solve those, put those fires out before they start? The final piece of the compass is integration, and that's putting all this together, because you got to put everything together to make this work. And one of the things that Disney has to use these 4 points in the quality service compass is what's called an integration matrix. And that's what this thing is. And we put this together at PTC and at our camps here. And so we integrate CAS, setting, and process. We integrate that with safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. And I put a couple examples in here. So I talked about courtesy. The cast members, my staff, said welcome to film at least 17 times. The show was wearing the BSA uniform. The setting, entrance to PTC clean, flags up. Efficiency, empowered the staff to meet the participants' needs without having to check with their leader. Safety processes, observe and review and report safety issues before they come a problem to any staff leader. So you put the things that you have in your area and you work these 2 things and figure out how they fit, and then you realize how these things fit together. Magical service moments. To create a high quality customer service, when we have the right people on board, we've created a magical setting, and we have process in place, we have the final element. That's magical service moments. The first one is high touch. Camp staff camper connections. Staff member teaching a scout how to swim or showing them a skill they've never learned before. You as a camp staff member, if you haven't been on camp staff before, most of you have, you're going to create experiences that are going to change lives. You're going to have young people, scouts, that learn something because you taught it to them, or they have an experience because you shared it with them that's going to influence the rest of their lives. I remember, I'm almost 62 years old. I remember 50 years ago, staff members at Spanish Trail Scout Reservation and Matagway Scout Reservation helping me learn how to do something, learn how to sail, learn how to do a J-stroke in a canoe, whatever. And that connection is important. At Philmont, we had really close connections, and our staff would get Christmas cards from some of the participants in the program. High show is number 2. What are the opening programs, closing campfires? What kind of fun are you having? What are those show elements that are important in camp? High tech doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has an iPad. It means speed, accuracy, and expertise built into those services that you provide. You do it efficiently, you do it accurately, and you have good expertise that you know what you're doing. So these meet the customer needs, which are interaction, vivid, memorable presentations, and efficiency. Those things are important to our customers. They want to have interaction with the staff and others. They want to have something of memory, and they want it efficient, that you're not wasting their time. The other piece is that creating that emotional connection is more powerful than connecting with them on a rational level. With an emotional connection, you create a stronger bond with a camper on how he or she feels about your camp. And it's pretty easy to do things when you do things like Disney does, because this is our goal. We want to do things so well as a camp staff that they want to come back and they want to bring their friends next year. That is why I think, and we believe through our research, that the PTC attendance increased so much, is because people went home and said, you need to go to Philmont. And they brought their spouses and they brought their kids so that they could experience Philmont. And I think you can do that at camp. There's 3 books that I've read that I think if you want to read a book about this, any of these 3 books would help you learn some of the experiences I have. I've given all 3 of these books to my camp directors and have them read them so that they can try to incorporate some of the things in this presentation. And they're great books. The Lessons from the Mouse and Care Like the Mouse are written by former Disney employees, and so they're a little more open. The one, Be Our Guest, is written by Disney, and so it's a little more corporate speak. But the other 2 are actual experiences, and they're both really, really good to carry out some of the things that we talked about here, and some of the things that you need as a camp and do for your camp. And then the key is, always remember, it begins with you. Ryan and Riddles can say anything they want and tell you what to do, but unless you do the things that you need to do to provide quality customer service and quality camp experience, it's not going to happen, because they're not doing every experience and doing everything. So I was faster than I thought I was going to be, Ryan, but because I wasn't interrupted by questions. So thank you and have a great camp. So are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Mark, you can call me Mark.
All right, Mark. Does anyone have any questions for Mark? Go ahead and post something in the comment section, and we'll reach you.
Joe, did you have a question?
Claw has a
All
question.
Right. Okay.
Go ahead, unmute yourself, Claw.
Yeah, that's what I was about to type in, if we were supposed to unmute it or type it up. I was just curious for maybe some elaboration on, in the case of if we encounter a rather upset customer or someone who is unhappy with something for whatever reason, be it a good reason or a poor reason, what would be kind of a more elaborated response to that view on how to respond to that?
Yeah. Not knowing your camp and what your culture is. I'll give you some, I'm not going to tell your camp to do it this way or do these things, but one of the things that in my experience was, I made sure that my staff knew what the service recoveries might be. For example, someone had a problem in their tent, for example. I would go to them and work with. I would say, okay, what are the limitations? Do we have another tent that we could move them to? Can we bring in another cot? Can we fix the light? What are the things are? So knowing the combustion points, then we could do those, and we try to do the whatever that solved their problem and had a service recovery within limitations. There's jerks out there. They say, the customer's not always right, but the customer is always the customer. So we got to find ways to do it. From a Disney perspective, and what we tried to do at PTC was teach everybody what those limitations are and what we can do, so they knew that within those limitations they could provide a service. For example, my daughter-in-law worked in one of the stores. She knew that if somebody came to her and had a problem with a product that they had bought, or they had just dropped their ice cream cone or something, that she knew that she could replace it and fix it. because Disney knew that if something happened like that, they wanted. Let me give you a story since I got a little bit of time. This on Main Street in Disney World, this little kid, they just gotten there and just spent like $400, to get in with a family of 4. And this little kid spilled a drink all over himself and wet his pants because he was so mad because he was crying. So you had a dad and a mom who had just spent $400, had not even gotten partway down Main Street. Cast member sees him and says, "What can we do to fix this?" And he goes up to him and says, he takes him into a store and gives the kid all new clothes. Now, what did that do? You got to think about it. That cost Disney probably $10, their cost, maybe $30 your cost. But it kept that person in the park and kept that family in the park. And they spent more than that on lunch. And they were happy and we're going to come back. And there's a bunch of stories like that. So find out what that combustion point, what are the things that are going to make your leaders irritated, and know how you can fix it if it happens, if the bad case happens. And usually with smiles and all those things and fixing it, you might, and again, you got to learn this, what is the balance point? What does your counsel say is okay? Is to say, let's fix it so that they stay in camp, they're happy, and they come back next year. Some people you can't make happy. Some people are just going to be, they're just going to be jerks, and you just have to do the best you can. But usually if you explain the situation, find a way to fix it, you're going to be okay.
I'd like to add on to that, Mark. You did a really good job there. Typically, what I did in my experiences as a campsite guide is there would always be a situation where there's a problem, whether that's with a tent or with the toilets, the usual thing you'll run into as the liaison between the camp and the campers. So typically what I did is this. I needed to identify the problem, identify future points for concern with the problem, and then come up with a solution or find someone who had a solution. So step 1 is try to identify the problem and make them know that you understand that their issue and what they want to see done. Next, you try to identify points or different routes that you can take to solve the problem if you are the one who can solve that problem. Or C, moving on to someone else who can solve the problem.
Yeah.
So Joe made a great comment in the comment section. You may be right, but let's check with my director. So
Exactly.
when I ever had an issue with a tent, I said, hey, here's what we can do. I'm going to go over to the office. We're going to write this up on the ranger list, or I'm going to try and get a hold of Charlie Brown, and he's going to come out here and patch your tent for you. We can do that. Or if it's that badly damaged, we can get you a new tent.
Yeah.
Let them know that their problem's being taken care of. Go ahead,
and
Mark.
The key is to make sure you do it, and then go back and check on it. So when you say, yeah, I'll go see the ranger and get your tent fixed, make sure you follow up and with that person, make sure it did, so he knows that you care about him. An example which can fit in the Disney process is when you call them and someone else needs to help you, they will say, well, they conference you in with that person that needs to help you, and then they check on you later to make sure that you got your help. And so as someone who's helping a troop, same thing. If you say you're going to help get something done, follow up and make sure it gets done, and then follow up to make sure that you show that scoutmaster or that whoever that you care about, and that makes a big difference in the long term.
Right, right. That you basically that you met the needs of what they're asking for, and that they're happy. Yep. Absolutely. Justice had a question.
Yeah, my question was, what made you want to become a camp leader?
I'm sorry?
What made me want to become a camp leader?
Yes.
I had a good experience as a scout, and then frankly, the first time I became a camp leader, I didn't have a lot of choice. It was typical. I was the DE that lived closest to the camp and got to be it. But then I got and enjoyed it immensely, and did it for 5 years, and then a couple years later went to Philmont. It just changed my life. But having those quality experiences and helping some of the Disney things that helped me have a quality experience. So I wanted to come back and do it again. But I think one of the things that I've become a student of is the connection of children to nature. There's a good book by a gentleman named Richard Louv called The Last Child in the Woods, and talks about how valuable a outdoor experience is in the life of a human being, especially a young person. And because young people don't have as much, we don't have recess in school, we don't have as many things, scouting and camp provide that opportunity to connect to nature. And the hypothesis from Richard Louv and all these other people is that connection to nature is what causes us to fully develop as human beings. And the idea of free play and all those things. And so I believe that what we do in scouting, what you're doing this summer, is changing lives in a way that they don't know it and you don't know it, but it's going to change their lives in this neurological way that makes them better human beings. And I believe that that's probably one of the best, most important things we do in scouting is that providing those opportunities that our forefathers had and early humans had because they were always in nature. But now that we're in nature more, that exposure to all your senses. So I think it doesn't surprise me that so many scouts do well in business and in school and in life because they've had this great exposure to nature. So you're providing something that's incredibly important.
Sweet.
Thank you very much.
All right, do we have any other questions before I do my piece? All right. So what we're going to go ahead and do is me and Rocket are going to review some of the things that Mark talked about and relate them more to camp and everyday situations that you're going to find and what we want to reiterate on. So here we go. Starting from the top, the first thing you encounter with this talk that we've had, exceptional service. That is 100% equal to our 100% legendary camp experience. Now, I don't just say legendary camp experience, I say 100% because that's the number we're looking for. That's the number that is the magical number. That means that everyone's expectations have been fulfilled and surpassed. It means that everyone got what they expected and everyone loved it. And that is what we have done in the past and that's what we will continue to do in the future, but that's what we need to go for. Next, one of the things that popped out to me right underneath exceptional service was the safety net. Safety net, that's your backup plans. That's what leads you basically when you don't know what you're going to do. So say, for example, that we have a fire bowl and it starts raining. I'm pretty sure Feathers could tell everyone what we're going to be doing. It's going to be called a water bowl. Basically, can't have fire outside. Well, we're going to have it inside. Move them all into the dining hall, put up some music, get some skits going, have a good old-fashioned time. Happy, conductive, program continues, neither rain nor shine nor hurricane. Evening activities. Again, rained out. We're going to have a dining hall party, some fancy stuff. Just make them have fun and have them forget all their problems and troubles. Because that's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that they have fun because we want to as well, and we will if they do. Now, some of the key points that were pointed out, culture, gestology, and the quality standards into delivery systems. Culture. Number one person that you can count on as a chief example for culture, any previous staff members of the year. I know that we have a few on staff this year, and we're going to have quite a few staff members of the week since we have 7 weeks on boys' side. Cubs side, you guys have how many sessions?
Well, we still have the same, I believe, amount of weeks, and we do it by staff as well. So.
Okay, sweet. So basically what those are people who exemplify those 12 points of the Scout Law in such a way that we wanted to recognize them. I was a staff member of the week. I know Feathers was at least a staff member of the week, if not year.
Yep.
And I know quite a few other people on this webinar and on our staff list have done the same thing. So if you just want a good example of a person to go to for staff culture, Talk to any member of the leadership team, talk to your area directors. Those guys are the key. Those guys are the example to follow. Next, guestology. Basically, what you need to get out of that is building your program for your guest. We are targeting kids and young adults. So we're not going to have a knitting competition. We're not going to have like anything that's not catered for them. We build the experience for what they are. We build the experience for what they want. We're not going to do necessarily what we want to do. We're going to do what they want to do. So if you're trying to console a homesick scout, you're not going to say, why don't we go watch Game of Thrones? A, that's inappropriate. B, it's not what they're going to be there for. So what we're going to offer is like, hey, why don't we go get some slushies and then play some games or something like that? Play Gaga Ball. Do some fun stuff that the kids will want to do at that age, you know? Quality standards. Safety. That's an always thing. We always do safety. We don't do anything without safety. That's why we have training, so you guys know what the safe routes are. That includes your personal protective equipment, such as like when you're welding. You're not going to go welding in a swimsuit and stuff like that. That just sounds really unsafe. Next, personal safety, youth protection. That way that you're safe and the scout is safe. It's another example of one of the things that we live by. Courtesy, another always thing. I want to be courteous to you guys want to be courteous to the scouts, and you want to be courteous to each other. That's how we all are staff. That's what we're here for. In a way, we will need to be therapists sometimes, Justice. Sometimes. Next, show. Feathers will say this 100 times over. The show is constant. The show never ends. We run the show in our sleep sometimes, and I have once or twice. Basically, when you're on the stage and you're performing, you are that character. You live that character. You are the driving force. If the character just got divorced, you are divorced. I'm sorry. But no, always be professional, always be prepared, always be happy, and
Add to
always
that,
be positive. Hey, Rocket.
oh, sorry about that. I was just gonna add on to like the whole like being a character. Part of your characters as a camp staff member is always spreading positivity and like how Mark said, which is always a smile. Make sure you're always kind of hitting on every point of the scout law, including cheerfulness and helpfulness, so that way they always feel like you're their friend.
Perfect. The one other point of the quality standards that we covered was efficiency, and that is necessary. If there's no efficiency, then camp doesn't really run. It'd be like we were stuck on day one of camp, and that just lasts for 5 days. So the benefits of being efficient is that everything is planned, everything is prepped, and everything is ready, and everything goes off smoothly that way. And it's really the most important part of making sure that what you want to do gets across. It's not the most important in the quality standards, but it's sometimes the most necessary. So the delivery systems, that is our fireballs, that is our first impressions, that is everything. It is how we actually make those magical moments that were mentioned later. So smiles, greeting everyone that you pass on the trail. It reiterates that thought of you are home. You are at the place that you want to be. These people are amazingly awesome. Next, training. That's everything we've done so far. That's how you guys get prepped. That's how you guys get prepared. That's how you guys are ready to do what you need to do. And if you have any questions or feel like you're not on where you need to be, talk to us. We'll catch you up. So next, the setting. That's camp, boys and girls. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to run. That's what we're here to make happen. So the setting is how the camp looks, how clean it is, how your area is presented, and how your campsite guide handles the troop, and how you handle your classrooms and your color groups. So make sure that the setting's ready. And if it's not ready, be the change. Clean it up, get it ready, get it prepped. I've had to make quite a few sacrifices for that. I know plenty of guys who have. Rocket, Feathers, Grimace, everybody. If you just want examples, come talk to me after this. So, the magical moments. Skits, fireballs, music, happy face, campsite guide, color group leaders, den chiefs, the list goes on. All those magical moments are the one-on-one interactions that you will have with a scout. Justice, don't lick knives. That's unsafe.
Excuse me, I was
All right.
blowing. I was blowing it to make sure all the grit was off of it. I was not licking it.
So
All right, moving forward.
actually, I got a little one thing. So make sure that when you are dealing with a scout and when you're trying to help them, do take the extra time. Don't try to rush it, because you want to make sure that what you're doing is helping. You're not trying to make sure that they're all the same. You want to teach them, or you want to make them feel confident in what they're doing. And that happens at any area. When they're trying to tie a knot, the first time they tie it, they're probably not going to remember. Make sure you go through with them how to tie it again, and then give them something to apply it to. Because that's how they're going to remember how to do that. And also, it's going to make them have a more positive experience because they got to do something. They learned not only to learn, but to apply. And that's a huge part of it.
Exactly. Rocky, do you have something you want to add to that real quick?
I guess it's more towards just this slide that we're on right now. If we haven't got to that one yet, I really like this 4-step method, and I think it'd be really cool to talk about. But I think you guys hit it really well.
Okay. So, we've talked about the magical moments. Next is integration, how it all goes together. That is your area plans, that is your lesson plans, and that is the program plans. That is the schedule that we live and learn by. That's flags at 7:15, that's dinner at 6. That's how we run things, and the chain of command. So integration starts with you guys. Is one thing that I took away from this, is because without you guys, it doesn't happen. The camp family is not a family because there's nobody in it if there's no people. So first things first, I want to thank everyone off the bat, a little off key here, for everything that they've done up to this point and everything that they're going to do this summer. I wanted to say that before I forget, because I'm really proud of everyone for everything that they've done on both sides of camp. I think everyone's doing a great job, and I think we're almost there. But one thing to real quick touch on one more time, magical service. High touch, I think I want to call that one-to-one instead. That's the teaching, the helping, and the consoling through the rough times and showing that we care. High show, opening, closing fireballs, and mealtime skits. The magical things that they're going to see that's going to make them laugh and remember for eons. And then the quality of our programs and facilities for the high-tech portion. Now, Ryan so courteously put on the 12 points of the Scout Law, and so we can review these, because these are the points that everyone's going to have, that everyone's going to live by, and that everyone's going to demonstrate. There's Rocket, Ryan. Anything you want to add to that?
I think Joe Singerling had something.
I think Joe did too.
He's muted.
One of the things that worked out really well with what you guys have been talking about is that human connection. I mean, we can explain and demonstrate and guide, and the enable is really the part of the human connection, but giving that opportunity for each of them to be on their journey towards leadership, each of the campers.
Thank you, Joe. 100%. 100%. Okay. So I think we're ready to move on here. Do we have any questions from anybody about what we've talked about? Devin, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question, man.
So working at the dining hall on general maintenance, what sacrifices do you think I could make to make it a better experience?
Well, from my experiences in helping out at the dining hall, you guys will only be at the dining hall for a certain amount of time, really, as long as you guys stay focused and working. So one of the things that you could do is when you're out walking around camp and you see that scout who's feeling down, sit down, have that chat, invite him over to the main camp pavilion and have a ice cream with the guy, talk with him, or
Okay.
guy or girl. Sorry.
Can I say something? Can I say something, Riddles?
Go ahead.
One of my other, I was the director of staff dining halls 3 times at the National Jamboree. And Devin, it's a great place to change someone's camp experience. At the Jamboree, with serving the staff, they were tired, they were hot, and we made sure at the dining hall that we asked them how they were doing. We greeted them positively. We said, what'd you do today? Did you have fun? What kind of things did you do? What did you learn? Whatever. We asked everyone that came through the line and smiled at them and greeted them and did everything we could to make it a positive experience. And you can change the attitude of a lot of people that might have had a tough morning when you're serving them lunch or dinner and helping them have a good experience. So using the same kind of magical experience, the same kind of staff attitude, you can really do great things for your camp in the dining hall.
Thank you. That actually helps. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's, Andrew, if you could, or Feathers, Andrew,
Yeah.
if you could talk a little bit about the training in May and.
I think Justice has one question first.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So you guys keep talking about that one scout who's having a bad day. Just go talk to them. What if the scout lashes out when I try to talk to them? And what if they just really want to be alone to the point where they're violent? What do I do then?
If it gets to a point where they're acting out in a violent manner, that would be a situation that we will cover, I think, in another training. It's called a now call. Unless it's not like too violent where they're just yelling and upset, then I think you could talk them down out of it. But if you're fearing for your own safety, you shouldn't be in that situation and you should leave.
Well, I didn't mean fearing for my own safety, but I do appreciate you covering for that. Thank you very much for the answer.
All right, Feathers, I think you're good to go.
All right. So, the next upcoming staff training. So the check-in time will be from 7 to 9 p.m. That night, we don't have too much planned. We will be having a big fire bowl. And what we plan on doing at that fire bowl is it's going to be a song fest / 10-second fire. All right? So basically, every 3 skits, there must be a song in between. This way, we can teach you guys all sorts of new songs and learn a few and reiterate them as well. And do the same things that we did for 10-second Fireball. However, there's going to be a competition as well. The best new song that we hear, the winner who presented that song will get a gigantic foam hat. At least that's what we're trying to get. So if you've ever seen one of those gigantic foam cowboy hats, that's what we're trying to do. All right? So after that, we're going to have a Cracker Barrel, and that'll be calling it a night. Um, at this staff training, we're actually going to be doing a little bit more split up time than we did in previous training. That's just to mainly get both sides of camp down packed the way we're trying to present things. So on day 2, we're going to be starting off with a flag ceremony presentation and teaching you guys how to do it properly at the same time. Then we're going to go straight into breakfast, going to make sure you guys all get fed, everything of that nature, all good things. Right after breakfast, we're going to be splitting up and having a mock check-in. So this is going to be for both sides on their respective side. So, yep. All right. So before we go any further, what I'd like you all to do, if we could, is we're going to recite the mission statement for Gerber now, because it's just a good idea, frankly, and this is what we're trying to implement this year and in the future. So, if you would, we, the Gerber Scout Reservation Camp staff, are dedicated to providing our customers and guests a legendary camp experience while participating in our life-enhancing year-round camp programs. We are committed to providing facilities, programs, and camp leadership that will consistently exceed the expectations of our customers and guests. Our Michigan Scout camps will be the safe havens for experiencing the best of the adventures and values of the Boy Scouts. All right. Thank you all for participating in that.
Yeah. All right. So some open positions that we have still. We are still looking for a couple people at the handicraft area. We're looking for one last lifeguard. Our aquatics director has changed. It's going to be Jacques Behar. He's going to be stepping in for Jacob Schmaby, who was supposed to be our aquatics director, but had some things that came up and he could not join us this summer. We're looking for one more person at Scoutcraft. We're looking for an actual adult to help us lead the EvoQuest area. I think we secured a health officer on the Cub side, but we're still looking for a health officer on the boys side. So if anybody knows anybody that might be interested in that role, make sure to get them in touch with us. We're still looking for some cooks. So if any of you are in school and have a lunch lady or a person in the kitchen that you could talk to and just say, hey, what are you doing this summer? Have you ever thought about working at a summer camp in our kitchen? And if you find out that there's somebody that is or would or what have you, make sure to get in touch with me and give them my phone number. If you do not have my phone number, I'm putting it in the chat column again so that you guys have it. Anytime you guys have questions, feel free to give me a call on myself. We're looking for summer camp commissioners, and commissioners are going to be a little bit different this year. We're going to actually call them CITs, commissioners in training, because every day Randy is going to help instruct these commissioners through commissioners basic training, so that way at the end of the week they are certified and eligible unit serving commissioners for the rest of the year to go out and help serve and sustain our scouting programs outside of summer camp. We are looking for more CITs. There is an abundance amount of CITs coming to camp this summer. We're looking forward to all of them and excited about that. CITs, just to let you know, any of those that are on the call right now, we're working to get your contract squared away. We do need to have a contract that basically reviews code of conduct and expectations and what have you. We will be trying to fulfill those at the next staff training, May 10, 11, and 12, just so you're all aware. The next webinar, our final webinar before we get to summer camp, will be May 26th, 6 p.m., same time, same bat channel. Hope everybody can join us again. If hope that you got a little bit out of today and tonight, and wanted to thank Mr. Griffin so much for taking the time and joining us for a good conversation about how we can expand on our customer service. You know, with this summer, the theme for the staff being legendary service. It's not the theme for the summer camp, but it's a theme for us as a team. Legendary summer camp staff. I think that everything we talked about today really does a great service to what we're going to do this summer. I'm going to go around the room and see if there are any outstanding questions or comments. So Byron, do you go when I call your name? Make sure to unmute yourself and just want to check, make sure you're all set. Byron, you're all set? Or sorry, Brian Burmeister.
I'm close to getting ready. I just have a few more things I need to finish.
Awesome. Outstanding. Phone number 517-633-1638.
Nope, no questions.
Awesome. Phone number 616-874-8913. Oh, they get off the phone. 616-947-4541.
Hey Ryan, this is Grimace. No, I ain't got nothing.
Awesome. Joe Singerling.
All is good.
Thank you, sir. 21 Webzack.
Are we doing questions or?
This is closing. Questions, comments, concerns, anything that you have before we wrap up the show tonight?
I actually do have a question. So due to the polar vortex this year, like the massive amount of snowstorms we've had,
Yeah, absolutely.
Due to the amount of snow days that we've had, like my contract says I'm supposed to be at camp June 10th, and my school days are going to June 10th, and I'm just wondering what I should do about that.
We're going to have to adjust those because I think a lot of people are going to have that issue. So we will get new contracts out, and we'll probably wrap that up and clean that up all over May training 10, 11, 12. So that way we're all set.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Alvin. Alvin going once, twice.
Oh, hey, sorry. I have a couple questions, but it's more of a private, so I was wondering if I hung out after we ended all this, I can ask it.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Charlie's iPhone.
Hi, yeah. I have the same concern as the last person. My contract says that I'm supposed to start June 10th, and I don't think my school gets out until like the 14th or 15th.
Yeah, again, like I said, we're gonna have to adjust that and everything. If I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask the leadership team to reach out to everyone and identify what day that their school is getting out of school, and what's the earliest that they could get to camp. So if you guys could come to the May training in May 10, 11, 12 with that information, that would expedite some of that those conversations.
Okay.
Thanks, Riley.
Other than that, I'm good.
Awesome. All right. Claw.
Yeah, I have one that's mostly kind of me specific, but not really personal, but I think other people may get some insight out of it, so I'll ask it. I'm teaching a kind of conservation, just kind of generic class I was wondering if I was allowed to give a sort of, I wouldn't say award necessarily, but some token of completion to those that go through the class. I know that some things like that have been done in the past, and if we, how many other groups are doing that this year, and if they will do the kind of fireball recognition. I'm personally neither for nor against that, so I could take it or leave it.
Absolutely, Claude. That's a great conversation piece. I'm so glad you brought that up. Friday Night Fireball is all about recognition of our scouts and our scouters and the things that they've completed and done. So if I was you and I was an area director or a program staff member in one of the areas, and I knew I wanted to do such recognition on Friday nights, the smart scouter in me would say, well, maybe I should start working on those now before I get to summer camp. So that way I'm not trying to do them on Thursday night and along with a bunch of other things like merit badge reporting and advancement stuff. So yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, Claw, to you is that I met with the DNR and they had shown interest in coming up every Friday when we do that conservation presentation to the leaders. So I hadn't had a chance to let you know about that, but we might have some added guest speakers for in person for that activity.
Okay.
Devin Beatty.
Hey, yeah, I was wondering if I could volunteer to do that handicraft position.
You want to move? You want to move to a different area?
Yeah, I'm currently on dining hall staff as like a put-away person, but I think depending on what dining hall I'm in, I might be able to, on my free time, is it possible to be a marriage counselor for handicraft?
Yeah, if you want to go over after your shifts, after you're done working at the dining hall, you're more than happy to go. I used to do it. I would go and personally, I would work when I was done in the dining hall. I'd go work on merit badges, but I'd also help out as, sometimes a lifeguard on the beach, or I'd go down and help, hand out tools at the handicraft area, or go over to Scoutcraft and help build things and towers and stuff. So absolutely.
All right. Thank you. That's great. Sweet. Other than that, I think I'm good. See y'all at the training.
Absolutely. Dominic.
Awesome.
Do you
have any questions? John, do you have any questions? It's you.
I'm gonna just say yes or no.
That's a beautiful kitchen you have there, Dominic.
Dominic, do you have any questions?
Well, maybe you have any questions since you're volunteer.
I haven't gotten any emails or information yet. I don't know what's up with that.
Are you a CIT?
Yeah, I submitted a.
Yep. RJ and I just met last couple days ago, and we're working to get through. We just got a whole ton of people requesting to be a CIT, and so we've got a lot of legwork to catch up on that abundance of submitted response. So.
Okay.
But make sure to get in your calendar the May 10, 11, 12 training up at Gerber, and make sure that everyone arrives at 7 o'clock and be there at 7 o'clock to check in on the Friday. I know that Andrew had talked earlier about registration or check-in was from 7 to 9, but as part of the efficiency piece that we were talking about earlier. I'd like to try and make sure that we're there at ready to go at 7 p.m. Check in at the dining hall. You can arrive behind the dining hall and then come in and we'll be there ready for you. Any other questions you guys have?
I don't think so, no.
Awesome. All right. Eric Tanhill.
No, I'm good. Thank you, though.
All right. Eric, have you come up with some ideas on designs of what you want to work on for welding?
Yeah, I thought of some stuff.
Okay, just so you know, go to on Facebook. If you go to the Gerber Scout Reservation Facebook page, I shared some photos of the guys that are working to redo the pavilion out there in front of the parade field to turn that into the welding area, so you can see what that'll look like if you want to go check that out.
Okay, will do.
All right, Eric Smith.
Sorry, I turned off the thing and I always get anxious when I turn on mics. I should, for the most part, be good. I should be able to get there on time. I admit my exams are always funky, so I have exams the same week as the May event, that's all, or our May meeting, but I should be fine getting into there on time.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yep.
Sweet.
Flounder.
All good.
Iris.
I'm all set, thank you.
Isabella.
We're all good here.
Mr. Singling.
All
He's
is
okay.
good.
Mr. Canfield. Or Justice.
You took care of it with Devin and Charlie. I just had a concern about the school thing because
All right.
mine up like the 14th.
All right. Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid going.
It seems like he has no mic. He is typing it in the chat, though.
Oh, okay. Bert Rant.
Not much in the way of questions.
All right. Mr. Matthew, shoot.
No, I'm good.
All right. Whoever's labeled MF.
Hi, it's Mr. Fantastic. I am all good.
All right. Miles.
I'm good.
Nathan. Nathan's iPhone. Nefarious.
I'm all good. No questions here.
I'm all good.
All right. Peanut.
I'm all good.
Ryan Hodges.
I'm all set.
All right. I'll start with riddles. Anything before we leave?
Just one thing, guys, that I want to reiterate. The team we have this year is pretty great, just looking at the list. But even with the leadership team we have, we can't really try and find everyone to fill all the positions by ourselves. So we really need you guys to be out there looking for us. 100 sets of eyes are better than 5. So make sure you guys do that bit for us so we can make sure we put on that legendary camp that we're looking to put on. That's all.
All right. Spencer.
I don't have any questions, but I appreciate everyone for coming out and joining.
Awesome. Andrew.
Just to reiterate, make sure you guys, so for area directors, make sure you guys have area plans complete. Everything all right, Ryan? Oh, okay. Area directors, make sure you have your area plans complete by next staff training, because we're going to try and run some parts of your areas. Make sure you bring games to test out so you know whether or not they'll work for the kids. It's a great way to shoot down things that are bad. Make sure that what you do have is good. For Super Den Chiefs, make sure you guys get on those songs. And also, make sure you know a few games of your own so you can play them on the trails. Bring stuff new. And also, keep looking for new staff. We're always looking.
Awesome. Thanks, Feathers. RJ, do you have anything? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah. Hi. Sorry, everybody, for showing up late to the party. I had some family business I was attending to. Yeah, everything that they said, reiterated. Yeah, do good things. Yeah, I got nothing other than keep doing what you guys are doing, get the area plans in. Love you guys.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, you guys, I got merchandise in, ready to sell. So when you guys come up in May, make sure to bring money to spend on uniforms or Gerber swag or what have you. Trading Post hopefully will be open for business by Sunday. That's our plan. And then we got this one. Trust me, I'm a scout. It's a camo shirt. It's pretty sweet. Spencer saw it this last weekend. And for all those that ordered items at the last staff training, you'll be able to pick those up this time. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
If you have questions that were more private, go ahead and stick around for a second. Otherwise, have a good night, guys.